Cars used to be called a depreciable asset, and that was so old people could scare you into investing in a 401k to maybe have money when you're old, boring, and probably senile. Then, somewhere along the way, Porsche enthusiasts ran out of 911s to buy, saw a GTR one day and said, sick, I want it. And now everything is expensive and people are collecting cars like they're worth more than my 401k, which is kind of weird. I'm Alex Martini on Instagram, and today we're talking about how to modify one of these ultra expensive, sometimes not so much, AKA an imported car. Welcome to Martiniworks, where we just launched the only tool on the internet that helps people buy wheels the right way. Now you can filter wheels by design type, either replica design, inspired by design, or original wheel design, along with construction. Wow! So you can see if wheels are cast, flow formed, forged, or multi-piece. Now, everyone else is scared to do this because they're huge corporations, but we have four walls and a roof, and we're gonna do really whatever we want. We think this is gonna actually help people mod their car the right way, and we wanna be there for every step of the way, and that matters to us, and we think it would matter to you. Now, how was the idea even birthed into the world of importing a car? Well, they've kind of always been a thing. Military folks would get done fighting each other on their way back from Europe, Japan, or any other random country we poked a stick in to bring a car back home, and that only existed in those countries, and we just kind of wanted that. Cars from brands like Lancia, Nissan, Alfa Romeo, and MG would make their way into the United States until eventually the United States government said, hey, wait a minute, bud, you can't just do that. Absolutely not. This is our territory. Under the guise of most things, the government little wankers decided that people couldn't do that anymore just willy-nilly because it was unsafe, and we needed to support our domestic car manufacturers, as if Dodge didn't have a stranglehold on every single parent that was making oopsie babies because the TV antennas were broken.
Dodge Rampage, tough front-wheel drive that pulls over a 1,000-pound payload.
And the result was a generally massive decrease in imported cars due to the rising cost of doing it, the legality around it, and the fact that American cars were at the time strong enough to push out any outside competition. Fuck you, lobbyists. We wanted cool cars back in the day too. But then us idiots were born. As we grew up to not be like our parents, but be exactly like our parents at the very same time, we were blessed to not grow up with the same love for everything always having to be a domestic car as our parents, and the result was a growing infatuation with anime, the Autobahn, and things that weren't the size of a 24-foot pontoon. And as we got older and wealthier, the want to buy something that wasn't inherently made for America grew, and eventually someone was ballsy enough to figure out the process again to import cars. And what we saw was the immediate resurgence of people wanting iconic cars like the Nissan GTR.
There was just a teeny tiny big baby kind of problem. Just a little one, just a tiny one.
Doing it the right way, as most things, was expensive, terrible, and dare I say, near impossible unless you waited 25 years. Now, companies like Motorex and others weaseled some GTRs into the country, but then they got shut down by the good old US of A. That's the whole story. So we waited 25 years, okay? And now we're here. Cars like the R34 GTR are a common example of what's coming from across the pond. But if you like weird stuff, you can also get an Audi A2, a Mitsubishi Evo 6, a Porsche 911 GT3, and a Nissan S15 Silvia, which are all available now. And it has the internet asking, if I did buy one, how do I modify it? If only there was a brand that knew, a group of people who could help. Somebody, or maybe a group of men and women that loved modifying cars on a pretty okay site and sometimes yelled at a camera in hopes people would watch it. It's us! We know how, because we've done it before. Kind of. We know how to do it. We've done it before. Ow, my knees. No matter what car you import, you're going to face the same issue regardless if it's a GT3 or a Pajero. Just how the heck do you find the maintenance parts? You don't. Now, modifying an imported car is just more like going to a restaurant where the menu is mostly in a different language. You will see words like chicken or beef, but for some reason it's at the bottom of the description, so you're a little bit worried that what you order is going to be terrible. Now, imported cars typically share a USDM equivalent, and it's important to know what that is. My Gloria has an Infiniti brother that I steal most of the parts from when it breaks. You'll want to know this because if you modify it too, you'll find most imported cars outside of the big three really don't have a whole ton of aftermarket support. Finding that first is huge and will save you a ton of headache, I promise. You'll want to find an import company that has some experience here because they should be able to help answer those questions as well. It's not like a normal dealership where you pray they just forget about you and instead they put you on an email list where they notify you 6 times a day because they just want your money, which absolutely kills me. You'll want to be friends with these kind of dealers. Now, imports, for example, Driver Motorsports, JDM Legends, Top Rank Importers, whoever it is, find one you trust because they know way more than you, at least at the start of this. From there, entering the Auto zone is entirely up to you, along with your suite of standard aftermarket parts, intakes, exhausts, intercoolers, seats, coilovers, wheels, tires, all of it. But let me be clear. It won't guarantee that just because there's a USDM version of the car, that those pieces always fit on the JDM or European version of the car, which is why we're making this video. We get so many messages of people who bought parts from other places and say, it doesn't fit, what do I do? And I say, did you ask them? And they're like, they won't respond, okay? This is a very common thing. People typically buy the USDM version, not the JDM or Euro version, and they don't always fit. Now, these differences exist because there's differences in safety regulations, emission changes, overall chassis changes. So if you're on the fence of getting a part, just reach out to us and we will actually double check for you. Because we really like you. I'm not saying the L word, that's reserved for my wife and my 12 cats. So how do you modify an imported car? Easy, baby. You buy the 3rd highest trim version of the car you want because everything else is owned by a 50-year-old that costs $250,000 and it absolutely makes no sense just because the car is blue. And instead you get to enjoy a car that's close enough. From there, you befriend the import company you bought it from because the moment you open the hood, you are going to be very, very confused to see that it looks nothing like the USDM version because of emissions and safety regulations. You'll find that the Supra pumps will work for the Toyota Century and are 70% cheaper. You'll start to realize that the Gloria gets parts from its Infiniti brother and that the sway bar, for some reason or another, works for an R34 GTT or a 2004 Subaru WRX, which makes sense for you, but it will be the most confusing thing ever to the next owner. From there, you're gonna have to explain to old people that you don't work for the post office and your friends that it's not a GTR because you don't own a manufacturing company and you're just 25 years old. But that won't matter because imported cars have a vibe. And that vibe is unmatched when you're on a Sunday cruise as you play some two-door cinema club out of the really 30-year-old speakers. But what's most important is that when you go to modify your imported car, you do it with the folks that care, which is why we started Martiniworks.com. We've helped hundreds of enthusiasts find the right car parts, including wheel and tire packages that can get shipped to your door, along with the fact that sometimes we're able to help you with some of these conversations, specifically with the weird platforms. So go check us out over at Martiniworks.com. Let us know what car or type we should talk about next. I'm Alex Martini. We'll see you later. Adios.